Let's start with a motivational beginning. Listen to Rory McGreal explaining us why teachers should try OERs, after describing the bottom-up and, luckily in few cases, top-down movements that are working toward the adoption of OERs at institutional level.
I would say that your experience echoes that of universities and colleges all around the world. It is mainly a bottom-up initiative, but there are cracks coming, and there is support in many ways for OER policies from the top. So we're in a transition period now, and one of our main tasks in the OER movement is to create awareness. When we create awareness, when faculty understand what OER are and what the implications are, they're generally supportive. We do not get much opposition once they understand it. But right now, the vast majority of faculty and students around the world don't really know about open educational resources. So from the bottom up, we need to push that. Now, from the top down, I think one of the leading examples is the country of Slovenia, where the government, the central government, has put out major policies in support of open educational resources. We don't see anything quite that strong in other countries. Indonesia has a policy to support open educational resources, and Poland had an initiative a while ago, and in Brazil, the government of Sao Paulo state initiated policies in support of OER. Now, in Canada, we don't have a policy, but we have two major projects to implement open educational resources. One in the western province of British Columbia, and the other in its neighbor province, Alberta, where I'm from. We now have a repository of about 140 full open education resource textbooks at the college and university level. So there has been support from the top. But again, this support from the top has come from a lot of grassroots lobbying by people who support open educational resources. At our university, again, we have no policy supporting open educational resources, but we have about 7 or 8 major initiatives within the university in support of open educational resources. So the bottom up is happening, and I would say around the world that is more or less the state of the art. Now, in the United States, there's about 20 states where they do have top-down state initiatives at the school level to support open educational resources. So something's happening there at the policy and at the top-down level. But again, I'd like to reiterate that the major problem for OER is creating awareness. Once people become aware of it, they get it, they understand it, and they support it. This is our major task, is to create and promote awareness. One point I try to make, and this is appealing to the moral side of faculty, is what Cable Green goes around saying, and I think it's important. I think Wayne McIntosh is a big supporter of this too, is that if we had all the food that was needed and we kept it from people and let them go hungry, this would be immoral. And now in the world with the internet, we have all kinds of educational resources. We feel that it is immoral to keep them from people because they can't pay. And it's the same. So with food, unless people pay, they don't get it, they starve, even though there's food there. This is wrong, morally wrong. The same, we believe that from a moral perspective, to keep material away from learners because they can't afford it or otherwise can't access it is morally wrong. That's an argument that I feel affects a lot of teachers. Another argument that I've been using for some time, and is actually the main reason why I got into open education resources, is that educators just can't work properly and do their job with commercial content. especially when you're talking about being online and having e-content. And that's because the publishers put all kinds of restrictions, digital rights management or technological protection measures onto their content. And they stop you from highlighting, from making notes. And in fact, they own your notes. They put so many restrictions on your device that it becomes impossible to use. And did you know in the United States, they want it to be a criminal offense to actually show your ebook to somebody else? And so they put on not just technological protection measures, but legal restrictions on how you can use your device. And so the way to get around it is not to fight with the publishers, is to go to open education resources that we can do what we want with them. We can annotate, we can highlight, we can do whatever we want. We can use devices for disabled people, and we can show them to other people without worrying about being arrested, sued by the publishers, and then possibly arrested by the criminal authorities.